This video is brought to you by Dollar Shave Club. Support this show and our mission to make daily videos by getting started with Dollar Shave Club today. You can get a shave starter set for just $5. It's a great deal, but more on that later. There are many ways to build a nice house. Some go for pure looks, opting to hire the flashiest architect available. Others go for comfort and stuff the place full of luxuries and the finest modern amenities. And then there are the other structures, the ones designed solely to be as secure as modern technology, large numbers of grumpy guards, and/or countless tons of concrete allow. We've already discussed some of these extremely well-guarded locations, but it turns out we were only getting started. Here are 10 more of the most heavily guarded places in the world. Number 10. Cheyenne Mountain. Cheyenne Mountain Nuclear Bunker Complex in Colorado is one of those supposedly top-secret sites that everyone and their dog knows about, which is not exactly helped by the fact that it has featured in multiple high-profile movies over the years. Still, if the powers that be decide that you're not going in, you're not going in. Construction on this famous Cold War structure started in 1961 when the US military hired a mining company to blast huge caverns inside the mountain. After this space had been cleared, they built a number of buildings within the chambers, fully reinforced with earthquake-proofing springs. There are also many support chambers for supplies, and the site even has its own water reservoir, making it self-sufficient for extremely long stretches of time if the situation so required. All of this was completely protected against virtually any offensive imaginable, from old-fashioned ground invasion to EMP blasts and bombing. Cheyenne Mountain became fully operational in 1966, and being the ultra-secure fortress that it was, it became the home of NORAD, the North American Aerospace Defense Command. Within the confines of the 5 air defense centers within their new mountain lair, they controlled air defense programs and hosted the American end of the much-feared buttons that would send nukes flying if the Cold War-era push came to shove. However, there was one thing Cheyenne Mountain wasn't proofed against: time. Over the decades, the country's military structure changed and defensive processes were moved to an airbase near the mountain. This left the mighty Cheyenne Mountain with a status as a backup strategic location manned by just a tiny maintenance skeleton crew. Number 9. The Bank of Hiroshima. There are many banks that are happy to tell you that their vaults can withstand anything. However, only one of them can make the claim that their entire bank building can take a nuclear bomb in the face and stand to tell the tale. That bank is, of course, the Hiroshima branch of the Bank of Japan, which was put to the ultimate test on the morning of August 6, 1945, when the US unleashed the fury of a nuclear bomb on the city. Apart from the heavy, tragic loss of life the bomb caused, it was hell on the city itself. The force of the explosion equaled roughly 16,000 tons of TNT, which was enough to destroy roughly 70% of Hiroshima's buildings. Every building inside the mile-wide radius directly under the explosion was essentially erased from existence. That is, except for a handful of absurdly sturdy buildings such as the Bank of Japan Hiroshima branch. Despite being located just 1,250 feet from the bomb's most forceful fury, the bank remained standing and was virtually undamaged apart from its 3rd floor, which happened to have its iron shutters open when the bomb exploded and was completely burned out as a result. To be fair, the atom bomb that had just exploded next door did have some impact on the bank's operations, and they were forced to cease operation for 2 days. On August 8th, they were open for business as if nothing had happened, and even allowed other financial institutions with less bomb-proof buildings to set up temporary offices in the premises. Number 8. Federal Reserve Bank of New York. Fans of the Die Hard movie franchise might recognize the gold vault of the Federal Reserve Bank of New York as the target of a heist in Die Hard with a Vengeance. In real life, the villains might find this chore a bit more daunting, seeing as the vault is the world's biggest known depository of gold bars. At one point it held over 12,000 tons, and though activities with monetary gold are on the decline, in 2019 it still houses roughly 497,000 individual gold bars with a combined weight of 6,190 tons. Just to support the weight of all that gold, the vault has to rest on bedrock 80 feet under street level and 50 feet below sea level. If the pure logistical issues of stealing that amount of baggage from such a deep hole aren't enough, there's also the fact that the bank is guarded, well, like the biggest gold repository in the world. The gold bars are rigorously measured, recorded, and stored in 122 separate smaller vault compartments, where not even a light bulb gets changed without the presence of a control group of 3 tightly vetted officials. The only entry is through a 90-ton steel cylinder set within a 140-ton frame, which is able to close to an air and watertight seal that won't open until the next business day. The vault is surrounded from all directions by thick steel and concrete walls and monitored from all directions by an array of cameras and motion sensors. Oh, and if for some reason some super thief were able to overcome all of this, the only way in and out of the vault is through the bank building above, which has its own extremely advanced security system and a private armed police force, of course. Number 7. Area 51. Area 51 is a long-standing favorite location of conspiracy theorists everywhere. This mysterious military installation at Groom Lake, Nevada is an active site that has been in operation since at least World War II, but gained notoriety over the decades when several supposed UFO-related incidents were connected to it. The government took until 2013 to publicly recognize the site's existence, and although released documents imply that the facility is merely a classified aircraft test site, speculation about alien-related activities continues to run rampant. Being a strictly secret site that nevertheless attracts more than a few enthusiastic UFO fans and other civilian visitors, it's no surprise that Area 51 takes its security seriously. Employees of the facility enter by flying in with unmarked planes that have special clearance to fly above the Area 51 airspace, which is otherwise heavily restricted. The ground route might seem easier for the casual wannabe visitor as the site is not fenced. While this might make it appear easy to just drive in and high-five a little green man, that could not be further from the truth. While the perimeter of the base is just a spot in the desert plastered with warning signs and some orange posts, just reaching it means you've already been caught. The security cordon between the base and the rest of the world is at least 10 miles deep and full of cameras, magnetic sensors, and guards watching your every move. Anyone who ventures onto that stretch of land will be monitored every second of the way, and by the time they actually reach those posts and signs, some of which have been known to make direct threats about the use of deadly force, well, they're still miles away from the actual site, but only seconds away from being arrested by angry men in white SUVs if they even think about taking a step further. Number 6. The Intel Smart Tiny House. The Intel Smart Tiny House doesn't come with a battalion of security guards and probably won't survive an artillery attack, but few buildings give you more bang for your security buck than this small yet hyper-guarded tech marvel. A 264 square foot tiny house doesn't usually have room for too many technological features. What with it needing all the available space for basic amenities such as a kitchen, bathroom, and bed. The Smart Tiny House is an ongoing, evolving project designed to change all of that. It features all the thermostats, lighting adjustments, and other features you'd expect from a much larger high-end house, and it's all connected to a single app that you can operate on a tablet. Impressively, this high-tech approach also means that the house recognizes its owner, giving you full control of who to let in and when. The locks are based on facial recognition, meaning that you, and presumably your possible identical twin, are the only person who gets access to your high-tech tiny house. However, that doesn't mean you can't let other people in should you so desire. In fact, even if you're away from home and want to let a friend in, you can remotely open the lockdown with a single swipe on the house's controlling app. The house's technological marvels also guard you against unfortunate homeowner annoyances such as leaky pipes. The sensors will inform you of the leak and automatically turn off the tap to prevent damage. Of course, all of these functions can also be operated with voice control, so if you've had a bad day at work and your boss has ordered you around, feel free to vent at your home by yelling at your door. Alright, so before we get into the top 5 today, I want to take a minute to tell you about one of the most guarded products in the world, and that would be razors. They're always wrapped in that insane plastic with all of those security tags because, well, they're ridiculously expensive, and that's what you call an ad transition. These daily videos are possible because of sponsors like Dollar Shave Club. If you want to support TopTenz, Dollar Shave Club is one of the best ways you can do that, and it's only going to set you back $5. Look, I use Dollar Shave Club, not on my beard obviously, I shave my head, and I used to use those cheap razors. I would never buy the expensive ones, that's just crazy. I'd use the cheap ones, I'd end up cutting myself, it's just not a good time. Quality makes a huge difference. And the amazing thing about Dollar Shave Club is that quality comes but without the crazy price tag. $5 at Dollar Shave Club gets you an executive razor, 3 tubes of shaving stuff, a scrub, shaving butter, and a post-shave dew. Also, they have this oral kit, which is basically for brushing your teeth. There's a shower kit, it's obvious what that does, and those are just $5 each if you want them as well. The toothbrush is great. My last toothbrush was like, when the breast bristles go all crazy. This new one, it's very nice, solid piece of kit. Shower stuff is also worth it too. But honestly, for me, if I were you, if I were going to get into Dollar Shave Club, I'd start with all 3. But if you want to start with one, start with the shaving. It's great. It's perfect on my head. And look, if you can do a head round the back easily, it's going to be great on the face as well. So go to dollarshaveclub.com/TopTenz and get started today for just $5. Again, that's dollarshaveclub.com/TopTenz, TopTenz, or Z as you say in America. If you thought about supporting TopTenz but haven't yet, Dollar Shave Club is a great way to do it. And let's get into the top 5. Number 5, Pionen. WikiLeaks has been hosted on a number of servers, including a rented one in Moscow, but the most famous one is arguably Pionen, a part of Bahnhof data centers in the southern part of Stockholm, Sweden. An elaborately designed underground structure that the Swedish Civil Defense commissioned in the 1970s, Pionen lies 115 feet deep in the side of a mountain. Originally intended as a nuclear bunker, the site was eventually turned into a popular rave spot for the city's young and cool until it was acquired by Bahnhof and converted into an ultra-secure data center that looks like a James Bond villain's lair. Pionen is elaborately designed to look as cool as possible while still being as protected as you'd expect from a high-security data facility. Its massive vault doors have been described as looking like a gateway to the future, and the first thing you see when you enter is a huge, brutal German submarine engine that's been prepped to automatically start running backup power in case of a power shutdown. On the other hand, the main chamber is dominated by an elevated, floating, soundproof glass cube that's custom designed for important meetings and, we assume, villainous monologues. Number 4, Svalbard Global Seed Vault. Svalbard Global Seed Vault looks like a fortress designed to survive the apocalypse, and in a way, that's precisely what it is. The facility is custom designed to store the world's largest collection of crop diversity. Basically, that's lots of different seeds. This is basically just in case some of the varieties go extinct or get into some sort of danger. It's an insurance policy for the food supply of the entire world, and as such, the builders made sure the world absolutely positively could not endanger it before it's needed. To minimize dangerous elements such as power outages, human error, and random deers wandering in to snack on the pine seeds, the vault was constructed on the most remote place you can access with regular air transport, Svalbard Archipelago, halfway between Norway's mainland and the North Pole. There, the thick bedrock and permafrost ensure that the samples will remain frozen even in the event of a power failure. Being a vault, the facility also features sturdy security, including a black box deposit system, not unlike those used by banks, making sure that the institutions and countries depositing the seeds are the only ones with access to them later on. Number 3, Guantanamo Bay Naval Station. Guantanamo Bay Naval Station in southeastern Cuba has been a source of constant controversy since 2001, when its migrant detaining facilities were converted to hold detainees of the War on Terror. It has held close to 800 people with an official enemy combatant status, and as of 2018, it's still holding around 40 people. As a facility for holding people, it's hard to imagine a better guarded place than Guantanamo because of the heavy military and CIA presence, and also because it strips the detainees from many of their basic human rights. Since the station is not located on American soil and the prisoners are considered active enemy soldiers, the government views them as not being covered by the US Constitution, nor are they entitled to their basic legal rights. This has led to some pretty interesting takes on the detainees' basic human rights, as the interrogators have humiliated and tortured them in a number of ways, ranging from waterboarding to sleep deprivation, noise, and vibration torture. At least 9 detainees have died in Guantanamo. Number 2, Saddam Hussein's Palace Bunker. Saddam Hussein was prepared for a bomb or 600 when they started dropping in Baghdad in 2003. After all, he had several bunkers that, according to their designers, could survive anything short of a direct hit with a nuclear bomb. The bunker underneath Hussein's palace in particular had 4 feet thick walls and a massive 60-foot concrete roof, and was considered to be virtually impenetrable. While history would prove the designers wrong, it's true that nothing the US military's brightest minds could come up with was ever able to put a single dent on the palace bunker. While the palace itself was bombed halfway to oblivion, the bunker remained undamaged. When the coalition troops eventually managed to cut through the 6-inch steel doors, they discovered an immaculate bunker labyrinth where the power still worked and Hussein's bedsheets remained unruffled. The bombs hadn't even managed to knock the maps off the tables of the bunker's command center. In the end, the palace bunker was destroyed in a much more poetic manner by Hussein's own disgruntled former subjects. Over time, the bunker's interiors were wrecked and dismantled by looters until it was completely stripped of its former glory. Hussein himself was later caught in a significantly less luxurious bunker, a tiny hole in the ground at a farm on the outskirts of Tikrit. Number 1. The Dead Hand Bunker. In 1985, the Soviet Union created one of the most horrifying inventions of the whole Cold War. The Dead Hand system was a doomsday machine that was specifically designed to kill millions of people in the event of nuclear war. Its most famous, or rather terrifying iteration was a top-secret, virtually everything-proof spherical bunker where 2 duty officers watched over a system that would launch all available nukes towards the country's enemies, with explicit orders to do precisely that in the event of a large-scale nuclear attack aimed at the Soviets. The bunker's specific security systems have not been detailed, but it has been described as possibly the most secure place of all time in the Cold War, which is saying something when you look at places like Cheyenne Mountain. Within this extremely isolated bunker sphere, the officers would wait for the 3 things they needed to launch Armageddon. First, the Kremlin had to activate the system with a special pre-delegation switch. Then, they had to verify that communication lines with authorities had completely broken down. Finally, the bunker's array of complex sensors had to detect a nuclear explosion within the borders of the Soviet Union. As you can probably guess by the fact that you're not watching this while barbecuing a mutant rat in the middle of a radioactive wasteland, the Dead Hand, it never saw usage. However, here's a strange and frightening thing. We don't know for sure that the Kremlin ever dismantled the system. For all we know, 2 elderly and increasingly anxious Soviet officers could still be sitting in a deteriorating supervillain bunker with their fingers nervously hovering over big red buttons and hoping with all their heart that the light labeled pre-delegation never turns on. So I really hope you found that video interesting. If you did, please do hit that like button. It really does help us out. Just go on and do that. Also subscribe, why not? But most importantly, check out Dollar Shave Club. Like I said, for $5 you get that fantastic executive razor set. Link below, and I'll see you next time.